We previously followed the case of the Apple River tragedy. This was one of those cases that really shook a lot of us, and a lot of different opinions on this case as well throughout our little online chat session and also throughout the internet.
I was fearing for my life.
In many ways, Nicolae Miu's trial came down to witness credibility. What the hell is this guy's problem, bro? And the nearly 3.5-minute cell phone video of the escalating encounter.
Two jurors who deliberated on Nicolae Miu's fate in the Apple River stabbing trial told Fox 9 that the panel of 12 quickly focused on the issue of criminality between intentional and reckless homicide, with little support among jurors that stabbings were done in self-defense. And again, that was a big piece for all of us. While many of us had empathy for the victims, they also had empathy for the defendant in this case, unlike most trials that we watch. Both jurors also questioned whether Miu should have taken the stand, concluding now that the 54-year-old man from Prior Lake did hurt himself with his testimony rather than helping his case. The jurors, one in their 30s and the other in their 60s, asked not to be publicly identified, but they agreed to speak openly with the reporter Paul Bloom from Fox 9.
If there was no video, how hard would that have made your job? What would that case have looked like?
It would have made the jurors' job very hard. I'm so thankful that we had a video to kind of base our thoughts on it.
The jury was in deliberation for 2 full days, and the jury was made up of 6 men and 6 women. Court administration has said jurors ranged in age from their 20s all the way up to a woman in her 90s. One juror told Bloom that the age range was beneficial to the deliberations given the different perspectives, with everyone having a voice and everyone contributing. This juror described the process as a team effort.
I feel that justice was served.
In total, the jury deliberated less than 7 hours in finding Miu guilty of a half a dozen charges in the July 2022 stabbings on western Wisconsin's Apple River. First-degree reckless homicide for unaliving 17-year-old Isaac Schumann, as well as 4 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety for stabbing Riley Madison, A.J. Martin, Anthony Tony Carlson, and his brother Dante Carlson. The jury also found Miu guilty of battery for striking Madison Cohen. The jurors said that the group first began its deliberations on Wednesday afternoon by specifically discussing the battery charge. They explained that even though it was the least severe count, it was that physical altercation between the defendant and Cohen that escalated the chaos between Miu and Isaac Schumann's group.
Why was it important to start your kind of deliberations or conversations around the battery?
The Madison Cohen battery charge was a really big thing for the whole case because what that basically amounted to is, who threw the first punch? We had more people that said that he punched her.
The group of teens admitted to drinking and smoking marijuana on the river that day, and video captures them taunting Miu and calling him names. Schumann's friend Joanne Cockfield was recording the interaction on a cell phone camera that day, and the video provided the critical evidence in the case. But the juror pointed out the 3-minute and 20-second video did miss the Miu-Cohen confrontation.
Both jurors reasoned if Miu threw the first punch, as several witnesses testified, he could not then claim self-defense.
Both jurors believed that the testimony of Tony Carlson carried a lot of weight in terms of credibility, with Carlson admitting to drinking while out tubing with his father and his family, describing what he saw from his perspective, initially coming over to separate Miu from the teenage boys when he said that he saw Miu strike Cohen. The jurors said while the group discussed Miu's claims of self-defense and they scrutinized the 30 pages of jury instructions for legal definitions, there was never any momentum for an acquittal or a justification for the use of the deadly force. For the juror in his 60s, he said a couple of elements he focused on was Miu's apparent skill in the way that he pulled out and ultimately used the knife, and the fact that he never said anything to warn the group around him that he had a deadly weapon.
But after looking at everything overall, I think it was just more of a freak thing. It was people in the moment. I don't think initially he had the thought of, I'm going to kill one of these boys or all these boys.
The juror also believed that the prosecutors did establish there was an escape route for Miu to leave the situation before it all ended with Isaac Schumann's death and 4 others injured.
It's not like anybody had a fence behind him or were holding him there. He could have went, even if it was the wrong direction, he could have walked away, or he could have walked right past everybody and went
Given the similar views among jurors that what happened involved some level of criminality, both said that a lot of time was spent discussing the definition of intent as it related to the intentional and attempted intentional homicide charges that Miu faced. The group of 12 found unanimous agreement on the reckless charges, while 2 or 3 argued for the conviction on the intentional counts. There were a few jurors that did indeed lean towards the intentional, but after looking at everything overall, they realized that it was more of just a freak thing. It was people in the moment, and he said, I don't think initially Miu had thought of it. Like, he didn't come in saying, I'm going to unalive these boys or hurt all these boys. So the jury ended up looking at it that way. As for Miu's testimony, well, the jurors singled out that the defendant's repeated assertions that he did not remember aspects of the encounter, especially those detrimental to his claims of self-defense. He is still unsure why Miu rushed back towards the teens who were yelling at him and calling him names on the video, wondering if Miu truly thought that the group had found the missing phone he was searching for with his snorkel and goggles.
Do you think he hurt or helped his case by going on the stand?
I don't think he had much choice but to go on the stand. I think if he really was going to plead self-defense and have a case, I think he needed to take the stand to explain himself.
I lied about the knife.
Was that your knife?
Yes, it is. It was.
In this case, which I think is probably with a lot of cases, it actually hurt him. Just like I was saying, because the stories did not match. There were so many things that were not true that he said.
The juror in his 60s concluded his discussion with Bloom by saying that he believes that the alcohol was the biggest factor in the whole thing, calling the outcome just awful. He added that the American criminal justice system is not perfect. We did the best that we could, and we just wanted justice to be served. The juror in his 30s summed up his experience with the 2 weeks trial as difficult, as jurors were supposed to sit there and be emotionless and watch people get stabbed to death.
I just want to thank all our supporters, our family, law enforcement, people we have that have supported us that we don't even know throughout the country, state of Minnesota, wherever. It's been 21 months we've been waiting for justice for Isaac Michael Schumann, and we got it today. So I just want to tell everybody I appreciate all your love and support. And
justice for Isaac.
Yes, justice for
and
Isaac.
The other victims. Yes.
So, thank you very much.
On July 31st of 2024, Nicolae Miu was sentenced to a total of 20 years in prison. The following is a breakdown of the sentencing for all of his charges, and each count is to run concurrently. Count 1, first-degree reckless homicide of Schumann, 20 years, with 6 years of extended supervision. Count 2, first-degree recklessly endangering safety of Tony Carlson, 5 years in prison, 5 years of extended supervision. Count 3, first-degree recklessly endangering the safety of Dante Carlson, 5 years in prison, 5 years of extended supervision. Count 4, first-degree recklessly endangering safety of Martin, 6 years in prison and 5 years of extended supervision. Count 5, first-degree recklessly endangering safety of Madison, 5 years in prison and 5 years of extended supervision. And Count 6, battery of Cohen, 270 days in jail. At the time of his sentencing, Miu had already served 732 days in custody, which were applied towards his sentence. Thank you for watching, everyone, and have a blessed day.
On July 30th, 2022, it was a nice day. Weather was in the 80s. Perfect sunny day for tubing. There was a lot of tubers on the river. Isaac was tubing with 5 of his best friends: Alex Bang, Juwan Cockfield, Owen Peliquin, Ryan Nelson, Landon Wire, and the last photo is Isaac. His friends called him Bike. The other group you hear a lot about is the Carlson group. The only one who was stabbed out of Isaac's group was Isaac. The rest of the people stabbed and punched were from the Carlson group. Riley Madison was stabbed. Dante Carlson was stabbed. AJ Martin was stabbed. Tony Carlson was stabbed. Madison Cohen was punched. The other group you'll hear a lot about is Nicolae Miu's group. So Nicolae and Ernesto worked together. A lot of these other people knew Nicolae through Ernesto. So all these groups were tubing on the Apple River. They're all out with friends. They're all drinking. The incident, the stabbings, occurred shortly before the tubers reached the 35 bridge that crosses over the river. And you'll hear that the only group of these three groups that made it to the exit was Nicolae's group. You'll hear that shortly before the incident, Ariel's phone got knocked in the water. So the group ends up waiting at a sandbar. Nicolae goes downstream. He's got goggles and snorkel. Isaac's group is tubing a ways downstream. And you'll hear them describe that this older guy is tubing next to their tubes in extremely shallow water, getting really close to them, not really saying anything. He's got will describe a strange look in his face. They're creeped out by him. Juwan's saying, he said he's looking for little girls. He's a raper. And Nicolae is walking away. He doesn't keep walking away. At the end of that video, he stops and he turns around. 2 seconds later is when that main video starts. You'll see at that start of the main video, Nicolae is walking towards the group of tubers. They're down in their tubes, the teenage boys, Isaac's group. He runs at the boys who are down in their tubes. That's the only time in this video you'll see Nicolae run, when he runs up on the group of teenage boys. He's carrying his snorkel and goggles. That group in the background there, in the middle photo, that's the Carlson's group. Nicolae puts his goggles in his mouth and grabs onto their tubes with 2 hands. Here in the video, the boys are yelling, "Whoa, whoa, what's this guy doing, weirdo?" Nicolae drops his goggles and snorkel in the water. He then starts reaching in the water where they fall into the water. He starts walking around their tubes. They're yelling at him, get away from us, walk away." They're also chirping at him. You'll hear Juwan saying, "He's a pedophile." Nicolae says something back. You can't hear it in the video. Boys are yelling, "Get away." That's Isaac in the middle photo with the white hat, purple trunks. That's Isaac again on the left photo, standing with his hands up, fingers splayed. You can see a gold bracelet on his left wrist. You'll see that again later in the video. At this point in the video, you hear the boys start to cheer. And that's because you'll hear from them that the Carlsons, some adults, were coming over to help. Those 2 people you see walking over are Madison and Dante. Madison's later punched, Dante's later stabbed. As Madison is walking over, she's yelling, "Go, go, go." Nicolae says, you'll hear it in the video, "They took my snorkel." You can see in that pocket on his shorts, metallic clip, Madison's pointing and yelling at him to go. Nicolae turns his back to her, looks back at the group of boys in the right photo. She directs him back away from the boys, back to her. We hear from her that's why she went over them in the first place, was to try to get him away from the boys. She keeps telling him to go. He starts smiling. He waves upstream towards his group. More women from the Carlson group come over. That's Riley in the middle, in that middle photo. She ends up getting stabbed. Right photo, you can see Nicolae puts his hand on that knife in his pocket again. He's smiling. The boys are laughing. They have nothing in their hands, as you'll see in the video. They're laughing and pointing at Nicolae. Then you'll see his hands start moving. You can't quite see what they're doing. You can see they come together in front of his waist. As Madison and Riley are talking to him, telling him to leave, he takes out his knife. He opens it, blade up, still smirking, looking straight at the women. While holding the knife, he looks around, looks back over at the boys. You can see Riley leaning over, trying to keep his attention. Some more people from the Carlson group come over. That's AJ in the yellow swim trunks. He gets ultimately stabbed. You'll see that's Dante in the right photo. He gets stabbed. This entire video is 3 minutes and 23 seconds long. The Carlsons say he punched Madison. You see Madison and Riley are standing in front of Nicolae. The video pans to the left. You see the boys still laughing. That's Isaac in the background of the middle photo. He's pretty much just standing there in the background. Then you see everybody react, and you hear it. You hear the change. This is when witnesses say Nicolae punched Madison in the face. Madison's sunglasses are no longer on her head. We're going to testify that they got knocked off when he hit her. After Nicolae punches Madison, Dante, her friend, punches Nicolae. You can see that in the right frame. Nicolae goes down in the water. You can see in the right photo, he gets slapped. Shallow water, his butt's in the water, essentially. That's AJ in those photos, pushing on Nicolae's back. You'll see that the push doesn't really do anything. Nicolae gets right up with the knife in his right hand, lunges at AJ as AJ's going to push him again. As AJ is pushing Nicolae, Nicolae stabs into his lower abdomen with the blade up, and slices out his stomach. From the push from AJ, Nicolae goes down, lands in his butt in the water again. You see him try to grab at Tony. That's Tony. You'll hear that's Tony in the jean shorts. Tony walks by him. Tony has his back to Nicolae. And you'll hear Tony yelling in the video, "Get back, get back." You hear testimony from Tony that he thought he was breaking up a fist fight. So he's yelling at somebody off screen to get back. He has his back to Nicolae. Nicolae gets up, still with the knife in his hand. That person in the top left of the left photo is Riley. So after Tony, you hear him yelling, directing somebody off screen to get back. He turns to Nicolae and he's yelling, "Get back, get back." Tony's yelling at him, "Get back." And then you see Riley's just been stabbed. That group in the background there that Nicolae's facing with nobody between him and that group is his group. Tony, you'll see and you hear from him when he testifies that he's just yelling at Nicolae to go. Nicolae doesn't walk back to his group. Instead, he turns to Tony with the knife in his right hand. He stabs at him twice. You can see Riley bleeding in the background. Ariel, Nicolae's friend, is there as he's lunging the knife at Tony. That hand there on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see more clearly in the next still shots. Isaac goes to shove Nicolae. See the gold bracelet? As he's shoving Nicolae, Nicolae lunges out with the knife. Nicolae kind of stumbles back from the push, comes back with his knife covered in blood and dripping. You can see the women recoiling from him. Nicolae ends up by his friend Ariel. It's not until this point in the video, after he stabbed AJ, Riley, Tony, and Isaac, that you hear people start react and realize what's going on in the video. You hear that they all suddenly saw AJ, and you'll see in a second what they saw. Up until that point, people didn't realize that Nicolae was stabbing people. The camera pans around, you see Nicolae looking in the direction to where AJ and Isaac are. AJ is in the water, holding in his guts. Isaac's friends scatter and run. Juan, who's filming, runs back. Nicolae walks away. Nicolae continues to walk away. He walks by his friend Ariel. On that right photo, he's standing in front of Ernesto. He walks by Ernesto. On the right there, that's Alex Bing running to Isaac, who is collapsed in the water. You see AJ struggling. That's Nicolae by Ernesto. Nicolae continues walking. Isaac's group and the Carlson's group start helping each other, try to get to shore, get the victims to shore. Isaac and AJ, who are collapsed. Nicolae starts walking back from the right over across to where his group is at the sandbar.
What is he on? Whoa! 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 Where's your way? Oh God! Yeah! Yeah! What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? Get away from us! What? What's going on with y'all homie? He's on camera. Tripping. He's on 4K. Yo, the new iPhone got that good quality. What do you say? Yeah, what the hell? Who is this? Yes! Yes! For the culture! For the culture! Who is that? For the culture! Who is that? Who the hell is this? Bro, it doesn't matter. He said he was looking for a little girl! He said he was looking for a little girl! You're looking for a little girl? Yeah! That's exactly what he said. We're gonna out. I didn't have that part on camera, did I? What the hell is this guy's problem, bro? We're trying to have fun. He's gonna claim you. He's gonna claim you. We don't want this motherfucker. You don't ever on God. Oh God, oh God, no. He ain't a woman! He ain't a woman! You ain't a woman! He ain't a woman! You got him! What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? He's dying! He's dying, bro! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Are we serious? Is it real? Oh my God! Who is that? Oh my God! Oh my God! Is this real? Oh my God! Oh my God! What the fuck? Is this real? Like, that's not barking!